folks out there, welcome to RPG with DBJ. This week we're talking about the Medusa, and today it's Thursday, so that means it's Third Pillar Thursday. What is Third Pillar Thursday? Well, let me tell you. The third pillar refers to the third pillar of tabletop RPGs. The first and second pillar is combat and social interaction, respectively. The third pillar is exploration, and for me, I take exploration to also mean the environment. How can we use that as our third element to make a lot of our encounters really exciting? It's basically taking the location where the PCs and NPCs and the adversaries confront each other and to make them really dynamic and make it very memorable, really to bring out the flavor of your world. And of course, to have all those things have a mechanical effect as well. So, below you will see the thumb spread, sub bell join. Please, just beginning, if you like long form content, just remember to give a thumbs up, maybe subscribe, spread the word, hit that bell for notifications, join live if you'd like to, and if you're unable to do any of those, just catch it later on YouTube or Twitch. All right, now, you guys, let's get into it. All right, the Medusa. Now, one of the favorite things that I love about the environment is using it and abusing it. And one of the great things is that, listen, 99% of the time, a creature, whatever creature it is, area or NPC or big bad, whatever, if they're found at home, they're going to, at the minimum, try to find some place that's not dangerous for them. And of course, primarily, they're going to try to find a place that really enhances who they are, what they can do. Basically, find a place that gives them the advantage, of course. Now, yes, I do understand, especially in Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, they have something called lairs and lair actions. But my contention is that any creature in its home is their lair, right? I make the example that sharks are dangerous not just because they bite people, but because they're in the ocean, which in of itself, the ocean is a hazard in which that makes that shark that much more dangerous. Same goes for, say, an alligator in a swamp, right? It's not just the alligator that's scary, it's the alligator pulling you down into the dark waters and doing a tumble roll with your allies sitting back and screaming and yelling because the hell, they're not going down in those dark waters after an alligator while you're getting your leg chomped off. So, what does all this have to do with the Medusa? Well, you can check out Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday where we talked about all kinds of permutations. But for the Medusa is going to want to defend itself, and especially if it's been attacked multiple times by the locals with their pitchforks and angry and everything. The Medusa is going to run. So commonly we think of the Medusa in an abandoned castle or old ruins or something. So let's talk about that, right? Yeah, thank you, Dead Man. Yeah, and yes, you are very correct about that. Many streamers have cats. They will sit on their lap and bring them into the cat. Maybe I'll take that under advisement. As a matter of fact, get a little cat tower and have my cats behind me. But that being said, the Medusa, the angry bestial hiding in the background in an abandoned castle or ruins or temple or something, Medusa, we can still use that. Okay, now let's think about, before we get into the whole the petrification gaze thing. We imagine ourselves having, at least I do, the Medusa having, from the waist down, having a reptilian body. And that's actually kind of cool because that could work into our benefit. An example would be, let's imagine ourselves like a Greek, not an amphitheater, but a temple with large pillars and such. and the place is ancient and it's old and it's crumbled and such, those marble pillars and stone pillars that are, you know, 80 feet high or something, that have tumbled over, that in and of itself could be cover. It could be a great place to hide so that the Medusa can jump out, or surprise the PCs, or hide in the shadows. And when the PCs go to investigate, they look her right in the eye as her red beady eyes turn green, and they feel their limbs start to freeze up, and they turn to stone and such. So she could very well, and this is assuming that she's by herself, right? She can maybe create sounds and echoes to lead the players down into narrow passages, turning one or more into stone, without having to confront, say, a party of 5 or 6 all at the same time, but try to separate them because of the debris and everything that's around them. Also, so one method would be using the environment to split the party up. And I don't mean split the party in the metagame sense, but when a player goes behind cover, when a player tries to crawl underneath a fallen pillar, or a player starts to pick and prod somewhere where the other, excuse me, allies cannot get to very easily, turning that first person to stone and then making a run for it means the person that turns to stone ends up blocking that narrow location, whether it's a passageway or an underhang or something of that nature. And turning the first person to stone actually could create cover for her as she tries to get away, if there are others that might try to launch attacks past their own ally, which might be really kind of cool. The other thing would be that as a pseudo reptilian, steps are not really necessary. And while the location might have a lot of steps, for a reptile, you don't really need that. As a matter of fact, if you go to your local zoo and go into a lot of reptile cages, you'll see tree branches and you'll see nets and bars and things hanging around, but you won't see any steps. And maybe the same is true for the Medusa. You can take a large crevice or chasm, whether there are deep pits and things, and across them could be those fallen pillars themselves. And for a snake-like creature, they are, snakes are able to cross tree branches and things like that because they can equalize their weight on either side, kind of like draping a damp cloth across a bar, right? They are, that's a bad analogy. A reptile can use its long undulating body. Well, a snake can use its long undulating body, and the reptiles, because they have long tails, maybe, or their body is wide, to cross, say, a fallen pillar, whereas the PCs may have to, either do it by crawling, or if hopefully they have good balance, they'll have to do it one foot after another. And so she could cross maybe a deep chasm, or there's danger or something, to get away from the PCs, or give a distance from the PCs. And if they try to cross this location, not only can she again narrow the PC's movements, if they're crossing, say, a deep chasm, but, and here's the other thing, get this to you, if there's enough dangers that prevent the PCs from blindfolding or averting their eyes, they may need to keep their eyes open to maintain their balance. Therefore, the Medusa can jump out and use her gaze on them, because blindfolding themselves or averting their gaze may not be a thing. So sure, PCs could have their eyes down while they have their arms out trying to cross over. They get to the other side. The Medusa throws a tarp aside, or a hanging blanket or something like that, and boo, ha, ha, sneaks into some cover again. All right, so, and if your Medusa is above animal intelligence, they can also use other things. They could have, I could imagine the Medusa having um, um, fallen debris stacked in such a way that she could push it over and dump it on the PCs, restraining them, right? Trapping them under stone blocks and things. And then once they're trapped, she goes over to them, and of course they're going to try to scramble their way out. And then she uses her gaze on them while they are restrained. Maybe there's a waterfall, and the PCs might want to travel below or behind the waterfall. The fall could be very, very loud. And so any kind of conflict that happens in and around the waterfall, maybe the other PCs can't hear it to run to the aid of one of their allies. And so she could maybe surprise someone that's trying to climb behind or scale or maneuver around this waterfall that's in this old temple where she resides. Another thing could be, say, with a waterfall, and I say waterfall because I'm actually thinking of different elements like earth, air, fire, and water. But anyway, so the water portion of it could be a waterfall in which she could use her tail, or use a long pole arm, or fallen debris to push one or more of the people going after her into the upper portion of the waterfall, have them fall over the waterfall, thereby again spreading out her opponents. So it may not do any damage for them falling over the waterfall and falling into the pool below, but it will separate them that maybe have to scale to a higher portion of the temple, and of course she can escape. Having a half reptilian body would make a lot of sense for her to be able to squeeze into locations the PCs might be hesitant to get into. There are rules in 5th edition for going into narrow stretches of hallways and tight caverns, or again trying to scramble under fallen pillars. And the PCs might be, you could, not only would it restrict their movement, reducing their or disadvantage on, say, dexterity saves, reducing their armor class and movement, being captured, having the inability to maneuver very well. But in addition, if they're wearing heavy armor, backpacks, they've got long weapons and all this other, shields and things, forcing them to have to disrobe, drop packs, things like that. And again, one person tries to slip underneath, say a TP of sorts, a fallen collection of pillars, and I'm still referring to the Roman Greek styled architecture and whatnot, but trying to slip into those pillars, of course, turning that first person into stone blocks that passage. Therefore, she takes out an enemy of hers, and the other PCs now have the problem of not being able to go into that narrow area, and the person's turned to stone, and she's taken out an opponent, and she's probably able to get away. Now, of course, this is all based on timing, and you have game statistics and all that kind of stuff. But against commoners, I can see her absolutely doing these kind of things. Now, again, using tricks, using cover, and one of the things that of course, it's going to definitely be in the area, and I didn't bring up, are her victims. So the victims of the Medusa, and I say her just because it's classic. The Medusa classically is a her, but many of her victims will be scattered in and around. Now, if she's emotional, or filled with rage, or has an animal styled intelligence, like not very smart, just more instinctual, rather than using very excellent, well thought out tactics, those statues are going to be spread and probably left where they had been. And depending on how old the Medusa is, some of those statues might be well worn from, say, weather, sun, rain, just age, crumbled. And so those, of course, are going to give you details as to how long they've been there. The PCs, if they do or do not know that there is a Medusa here, if they don't know, of course, they're going to instantly find out when they see these lifelike statues. So they're going to be scattered all over. Some of those statues may have fallen over because some people will be balanced precariously on their leaning forward, or about to strike with a weapon, or surprised when they come around the corner. And so the statues will just be in these very strange um, paparazzi style stone images of people like picking their nose and things like that. So you could have a little fun with that as well. But those stone statues are themselves an aspect of the environment. And other than just being narrative, they can be used as cover. They can reduce movement in an area. If you're using a battle map, you could fill those squares with various random statues, forcing the PCs to have to like maneuver in and around the statues. Of course, reducing their movement, wasting time, and of course, she can very well maneuver the PCs while they're going through the 13 villagers that came up 3 months earlier. While they try to maneuver in and around them, she could be maneuvering maybe on the outskirts of the region, or even slipping in and amongst the PCs. So some of the PCs might not be able to get past, say, 4 villagers that all raised their hands up and were surprised and turned to stone, because those 4 villagers together act as, say, half cover, 3/4 cover, full cover. So, and of course, it's descriptive, right? You could very well replace the villagers that were coming after her with literally stone or walls or battlements or something, but making them people was actually it's kind of cool. And of course, for the, say, a PC is a halfling that's able to slip between the legs of the taller folk, having them being able to slip between the legs of the people turned to stone. Would I allow that? Yes, that's why the environment's there. It's to be used and abused. So let them abuse it. If a PC finds a soldier that was trying, an archer was up on a tall battlement or something, and was about to snipe the Medusa 4 weeks ago, but instead got turned to stone, and a PC wants to push the elven archer off the edge and drop it on top of the Medusa. Yeah, that sounds pretty cool to me. So would I allow something like that to happen? Hell yeah. PCs using magic or something to appear as if they are stone is an idea. I'm sure all those stone figurines around her are a complete non-threatening, and the PCs being able to mimic that would also be possible. Now, in some parlance, the Medusa is quite intelligent using weapons and things, and the Medusa may have around a number of weapons other than, say, in the classic movie, she was using a bow and arrow. Maybe she has a spear or a trident, but she could actually have a cache of other weapons in and around the region. Barrels of oil so that the PCs slip and fall. Maybe a cauldron of hot tar that could spill on someone and have them adhere to the ground around them. Of course, going back to the debris to knock things down. Maybe there's twine or thread so that if someone trips a wire, it will make lots of noise, like bells or small pieces of metal that have been, all strung together. And if they go around a particular corner or room, it makes noise which alerts her. I could imagine her having different caches of weapons where she may have a crossbow or bow and arrow in one corner, and then 3 or 4 javelins in another corner, and maybe a shield and a longsword in a fourth corner or something. Using what are some other weapons, like a net or polearm for reach to poke between, say, an iron grate or a portcullis or something that the PCs can't maneuver into, but it separates her from her enemies, and she's able to stab whoever tries to come past. And then maybe it's old and ancient and it breaks, or she no longer needs it and drops it and runs off somewhere. So it could be you could play this as a cat and mouse. Now, if she has allies, the allies themselves are going to use the environment as well, and that just stacks right on top of it. Orcs or hobgoblins or some other kind of goblinoids as her agents, setting up their own locations to snipe people. The setting up things in the region to force the PCs to keep their eyes open, to watch out where they step. Maybe there are marbles or ball bearings or spikes on the ground that they've set so that the PCs actually see it, right? So the PCs may think, "Ha, they tried to trap us, but I know it's there." They now have to keep their eyes open to watch their step so that they don't, step on a spike or trip on ball bearings or something. They keep their eyes open. Now the Medusa now has the opportunity to surprise them. Also, going from places of extreme darkness to brightness, maybe there are places of darkness specifically so that the person walking through the dark is trying to keep their eyes open so that they adjust to the darkness. When they come out of the light, boom, there she is to surprise them. Also, there might be when I say her allies, there might be animalistic styled creatures or something like, and okay, that's a wrong description. Maybe there are other monsters of animal intelligence she's using specifically to keep the PCs on their toes, whether there are swarms of insects or sturges or bats or something. Maybe there are cauldrons of oozes that she uses and knocks over to splash the PCs, or splashing them with acid or something of that nature. Maybe there is a choking smoke. She drops an elixir into a vat, or drops it into a small fire, or throws it to the ground to make a choking, some kind of like choking hazard or smoke or whatever. When the PCs leave the smoky area, the PCs that leave the area trying to, put their hands out to find out, making sure that they don't stumble over anything, because the ground might be uneven. They come out of the smoke. She's there to surprise them. The allies are left in the smoke, don't see what's happening to their ally until they see their ally's backpack that's completely turned to stone, etc., etc. So definitely, absolutely, using the environment. Using height differences would appeal as well. Being able to dangle down from rafters or a ceiling, hanging down from a catwalk, using her reptilian tail to hold herself up and hanging upside down to surprise the PCs. Maybe using a I was going to say sewer system, but you get what I'm saying, a drainage area where the PCs are walking and she reaches out, her or her allies reach out to grab the ankles of the PCs, and when they look down into the dark regions of the sewer drainage system, they of course see beady eyes down there. Maybe there's a 1, 2, 3 goblinoids, the fourth one, oh, the green eye, oh, she got me, boom, turn to stone, right? So a lot of these things could be very well play into her favor. Now, I'm doing a very hit and run kind of description here, but if you want the Medusa to be a very frontline fighter, standing at the top of a dais with her pseudo magic, hag-like magic, and fighting the other PCs, I could imagine the Medusa being surrounded by like 3 or 4 of her consorts, and they could be Naga or Yanti or Yuanti, however you want to pronounce it, or lizard folk or dragonborn or something, and they could be surrounding her, and you could very well say reskin some other creatures to be the ones that are more in line with her. So if you don't want to go, if you're a canonista and you're like, well, Yuan-Ti are from a different origin, I don't want to use that, but you really want something unique, I would say reskin some of the creatures, or here's another strange thing, give some of the creatures a weakness that highlights their advantages. So an example would be reskin, say, a Cyclops, and reskin the Cyclops as a reptilian-styled, one of her consorts, again, with reptilian skin, and from the waist down, it's like a snake, and from above, it's got these big, beefy arms. He's like this big, burly dude, and maybe has one eye in the middle of his snake-like head, or maybe it's a reskinned it's a reskinned um, Minotaur, and the Minotaur has what the ability to. The Minotaur has the ability to charge someone, and instead of describing it as charging, maybe it's more. Maybe this creature is more Cobra-like and has the ability to strike very quickly, and so coils its underbody underneath it and then strikes very quickly, tackling the PC to the ground. Of course, tackling the PC, Medusa comes over to the tackled and or restrained PC, turn them stone, and move on. There may be, again, maybe her allies might be very intelligent and they are using various tactics, whether they are traps or some of their special abilities or shape changing or things of that nature. You know, PC goes around the corner, a an illusion or a shape changer looks like the PC, it walks around from another corner. Allies are like, oh, it's our ally just poking around. Shape changer turns around and then surprises them. Maybe it is the Medusa and looks them in the eye, and the PCs are again untowards as to what the hell just happened. Uh, Maybe the Medusa has magic items like a cloak of invisibility or some other magical items that, you know, if you're going to have a monster with a treasure hoard, why wouldn't they be using those same items, especially if they're weapons, potions, scrolls, um, rings, any maybe you've reskin, reflavored your own magic items. If she is smart enough to have them, she's probably smart enough to use them if she's able to. And so that's another thing as well. Handing over some one or more magic items, or she has a stash of them, potions or concoctions that she's created or found over time or assembled. And so when she slips behind the pillar and the PCs go to find her, she throws the ceramic thing to the ground and it spills open, and some other effect like a web shoots out and it sticks the PCs into the web, and she runs around going after maybe more of the PCs that are going after her, and lets those that are stuck in the web stay there, or they get stuck in the web. She goes over to them, she opens up their eyes, bam. Uh, there are maybe she has allied herself with someone or something that can charm a PC and hypnotize them, and only needs to give one instruction: open your eyes. And then the I don't know, the vampire lord is her consort. I don't know why they have to be consorts, but whatever. So the vampire lord comes to one of the PCs, charms them, and says, open your eyes there, foul human. And the human opens his eyes, it's like, no. And the Medusa slithers up and looking all sexy and stuff, and then bam, turn to stone, and then they go off on their own. So that may be a thing as well. A Medusa that's lived a very long time, extremely long time, may have a region, a layer that's been set up so well that is now it has arcane power to it, so that these aren't just it's not just a some ramshackle ancient temple that's been worn away. Maybe this is a place that she set up over many years, and so instead of a pit trap, it is a trap that if you look into you walk down the hallway or in the dungeon or something, and ahead of you is a figurine or something. If you look at the figurine, PCs are like, ooh, it looks like it's got gems in it. And maybe there's a saving throw, and if you miss the saving throw, you're charmed. And the charm is, keep your eyes open. Like, why aren't you blinking? I don't know. Right? Or maybe there are things that narratively, it tricks the PCs into looking into a place so she can catch you. Much like was mentioned the other day about, which I love the story idea of the Medusa talking to people like a Catholic confessional, but like with a thin screen between them. Maybe there are like murder holes and crevices and little cracks, just no bigger than to get your hand through. Little dark areas that a PC might need to look into or bring up a light source to see what's down there. And every one of those is the place for the Medusa to hide on the other side of a stone wall, or a wooden obstruction or a metal a barrier or something like that, and she's hiding on the other side. And the minute she sees light go into that room, she sits on the other side. PC looks down the hole, whether it's at their feet or above the ceiling or in the wall or something. They look into the murder hole. She's right there. Boom, turn them to stone. And of course, the PC now is in front of the thing to look to see what happened. So now they have to deal with their ally that's taken out, and she gets to just slither to another side and look through another hole or something. Absolutely. Also, if she's taken over, say, a wizard's castle or something like that, who's to say there aren't spells that, there aren't spells and traps that she's taken advantage of, traps that with her specific nature, not only has she been able to avoid the traps, but she's physically, I'll say biologically able to avoid traps that a bipedal creature has more difficulty with, and also maybe she's been able to reset some of them. So it could be ramshackle. PCs are like, ooh, that's an open pit trap. We better watch out for some more pit traps around here. But yet again, PCs are like, oh, there's a pit trap, I see it, and then all of a sudden a log comes swinging out of the ceiling, slams the PC in the chest, knocks him down into the pit trap they just walked around, and then she's able to, go after one or more PCs while the one down in the pit trap has to climb themselves out. And of course, while they're climbing themselves out, they get to the top edge, she's standing there, boom, turn to stone. So now a lot of this that I'm saying is to the Medusa's advantage, and if the PCs are going after the Medusa, she's definitely going to try to play those advantages as much as possible. But that's not always the case. If she's traveling on the road with her ogre bodyguard that has a displacer beast as a pet, or maybe the displacer beast has the ogre as a pet. Anyway, and maybe she's got 24 hobgoblins as soldiers or something. Maybe the PCs confront them on a lonely road, and the PCs try to use the environment against the Medusa. I can imagine the PCs wanting to have a blanket party with the Medusa. Throw the tarp blanket tapestry over the Medusa's head so that her gaze and of course her poisonous snake-like hair is trapped inside of a tarp or a blanket, and therefore is non-threatening, or at least reduced threat, so that everybody beats her about the head and shoulders. Yeah, heck yeah. Reskin it as a net attack or something, or have a, I don't know, strength versus strength contest to see if she's able to rip the thing off of her head while someone tries to put it over her head. And of course, since she can't see what's going on, maybe the PCs are doing something else to, one PC jumped on her back and throws a tarp over her head while everyone else tries to beat her, about the head and shoulders. That could very well be a thing. Also causing, let's say the Medusa has a large cloak or a mask on or something to cover her face so she doesn't turn her own allies to stone. I could very well see a PC trying to remove that so that she does turn her own allies to stone, right? What's going on there? What's up, man? Peace. Thank you for joining us. Dude, getting up nice and early. I know you've got school, but yeah, what the hell? That's awesome, dude. Yeah, the Medusa, the PCs could turn the Medusa against her own allies. So someone could very well, I don't know, what's the spell? Mage hand or telekinesis or something, pull the hood off the Medusa's head. She looks around. Her ogre bodyguard isn't very smart, looks her in the eye, turns to stone. Boom, you've got that. So the PCs could very well use the environment against her. They could use, if you have a Medusa that is very emotional, because we talked about that before, right? The anger, the rage, the narcissism, the horror of being this thing could be used against the Medusa. So this is more using social cues to get the Medusa to either move to a location or perform something that the Medusa normally wouldn't want to do. So an example would be the Medusa has the PCs on the run. The player characters are like, okay, we need to change tactics. So then they start calling the Medusa out, calling her maybe ugly or talking about her loved ones, or maybe making claims that they could save her betrothed that is unfortunately turned to stone, or saying she could be absorbed back into the community. There's a way that you can regain your stature in the community, and it draws her out from these hidden locations, drawing the Medusa out, and then boom, a couple of people snipe the Medusa, maybe, again, giving her a blanket party or something. So that's also a possibility as well. And of course, we know if the Medusa looks at her own reflection, she turns to stone. Well, that's another thing to use. Maybe the PCs have one or more mirrored shields and whatever reflective surfaces they've brought with them or assembled in the region, and then try to have the Medusa either come after them thinking that they're on the run, or making noises, or even bringing with them one of the Medusa's loved ones to have the Medusa poke her head around the corner. She sees her betrothed. Oops, what is that? A reflection? Her reflection in a mirrored shield? And bam, turn to stone, right? So absolutely could use sound, use lights, use images, whether it's through deception or reality, to get the Medusa to also come out of the woodworks, and again, using the environment to the advantage of many people. The other thing, remember when I talked about height, the Medusa dangling from a ceiling, or hiding in the sewer, kind of like the clown from It hiding down in the sewer with the dark beady eyes, and someone looks down in there and gets turned to stone. The PCs could do the exact same thing, right? They could, to limit themselves from having to say wear a blindfold or avert their eyes, the PCs could also be in a place where they can't really see the Medusa, and they're doing this on purpose. Dead Man says that was a mistake I made yesterday. The Medusa isn't susceptible to her own reflection. It was the basilisks that were susceptible to their own reflection. I'm going to kind of disagree with you in a very general sense. I don't know what the gaming, I don't have the stat block up in front of me, but it's a pretty. I understand that in a mythological sense, there was the Aegis shield was created specifically to reflect the Medusa's reflection back at her. But I think common parlance, that if the Medusa sees her own reflection in like a mirror, or a polished shield or disc or water or something, that she turns to stone. And I know it varies. It's just like a vampire, right? Some vampires are, some aren't vulnerable to running water, being invited in. Garlic, I think it's the same thing for the whole Medusa, basilisk, Gorgon thing, whether they are or are not susceptible to their own reflections. Now, of course, that depends on your own world, right? If you say, well, the Medusa's a pretty tough customer for my first or second level party, using that as a because I love the fact that a Medusa is a puzzle monster, much like vampires. But yeah, the Medusa is a puzzle monster where the answer to solving the problem isn't necessarily upfront, and it doesn't necessarily easily assign itself to some mechanical advantage. It's not like, oh, I've got the spell that easily counters this thing. It requires some creativity, and I like puzzle monsters that require creativity, and the Medusa just happens to be one of them. If you take away the idea that the Medusa is vulnerable to her own reflection, there's not a problem with that, but I feel like it closes a door that a player character may feel is open, right? If the player characters never come up with that idea, then I don't think you have no losses. If the player characters are trying to be creative in your world, I think it behooves us to allow their creativity to flourish, right? It'd be pretty terrible to have 4 player characters that are like, great, all right, we're going to find a shield, and then we're going to polish it, and we're going to take it up with us because the Medusa's there, blah, blah, blah. And then you go, yeah, it doesn't work. Are you being true to your setting? Yes. Is it possible that as a game master or dungeon master, you are setting yourself up to cause your players to not want to engage in your world, that's a possibility too. Besides, you're not going to run. It's not like you're going to run out of a Medusa, right? It's like, oh, we've only got one. No, that's not the thing. So while practically yes, I do agree with you, Dead Man, that I don't believe it's written in the stats. That doesn't mean it's not true, right? So because I don't believe they are immune to petrification. So that also can lead to that idea as well. And who's to say, like, for example, we know the classic cutting the head off of the Medusa to put it in a bag to then use the Medusa's head to then turn another enemy, ravaging enemy, into stone. That itself as well is not a, like, I don't believe that's a gaming thing. I think it's just a narrative mythos kind of thing. Does that mean a player character can have a Medusa's head and carry it around in a bag with the sickly green blood dripping out of the bottom of it, staining the bottom? You might allow them to do that for a limited amount of time before the head really starts to rot and starts to smell, maybe. Sure, why not? What harm can it do except for the PCs turning everybody and their mom into stone or something? I don't know. Yeah, why not make that a possibility? Also, the PCs might even try something like not just blindfolding themselves, but using maybe helmets or some kind of thing so their eyes are always downcast, so they don't have to look directly at their enemy, the Medusa and her allies. So allowing the PCs to do that as well. There are statistics for doing that by, basically they're effectively blinded. They're blinding themselves, which might be kind of cool. Averting your gaze for the Medusa might give a benefit for her ogre and its, I don't know, displacer beast pet. I don't know why I'm obsessed with that, but anyway, so the ogre comes out of the woodwork with a big old club and smashes the PC in the head, and it's like, I don't have to make a save for poison. It's like, no, you just got hit by an ogre. Like, where'd the ogre come from? Like, you don't know. You had your eyes averted. You weren't looking. Um, Scott Poe says a gentle repose becomes a pretty powerful spell to keep your Medusa head fresh. Yeah, absolutely. Now, would I allow a PC to keep the Medusa's head fresh through some other concoctions or finding someone or using some of their own spells or whatever? Hell, why not? I mean, and remember, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's like auto stone turning. First of all, the Medusa's current stats do not create an auto stone turning effect, and you could reskin it and call it whole person, kind of like a wand maybe or something. And like, well, it's not. I mean, the Medusa's dead, so maybe it's more like hypnotic or whatever. Or you could just reskin it or something, Or the victim turns to stone, but you must hold the head aloft. Like the minute you put the head back in the bag, the person turns back to flesh again, which might be a limitation or something. Just in case you're afraid, like, I'm not giving my PCs that. No way. Could you do something like that? Sure. Maybe they're only, like I said, maybe there's a duration, but Scott Poe is like already circumventing my duration, which is fine. You can burn my set down. What do I care? Right? I'm picking with you, or burn it down, turn it to stone or something. But yeah. Anyway, let's get back to our third pillarisms, right? Using the environment and stuff. Now, the origin of the Medusa is going to be dependent on your world as well, and so that does have the case. Now, Malika says, do illusions and mind control work against the Medusa? I don't know, and that brings up a very strange, because I thought about the illusionary idea, because it depends on which direction, right? So if a Medusa is behind an illusion, are you affected by her gaze? I would claim no, but you could make the argument that, well, yes, right? And then do it the other way. The player character is hiding behind an illusion. Can you create something illusory to convince the Medusa that maybe she's turned one or more of the pieces to stone? She puts her hood back up over her head, and then boom, you start having a blanket party on her. Yeah, why not? Mind control? I'm not certain. I I don't believe they are especially resistant to mind control, which, based on how powerful your mind control is, would be a very powerful. The Medusa would be very powerful, especially even if it's only temporary, right? Mind control the Medusa to look at her own allies, turn her goblinoid soldiers to stone. Once she shakes it off, or just before she shakes it off, you lop off the head and you're done, right? So, yeah, I could very much see that. Now, if your world is filled with a coven of Medusae, or a race of Medusa-like creatures, I could see many of them having um, spell abilities, spell casting levels, magic items and things. So maybe many of them have specific resistances. So one Medusa might be wearing a hood, another one wears a mask, a third one wears a helmet that has like a little face shield on it. They're wearing a medallion to make them resistant to mind control. Like I could see different clans and different ones having different experiences and being more powerful than others. Um, Younger one, like I mentioned the other day, younger ones basically doing like a hold person, basically charming you like a snake. So it's not that they're turning you to stone permanently. It's as long as they keep their eye on you, you're stone. When their eyes avert, you turn back to flesh. Those might be the younger ones, whereas the the ancient ones have the ability to turn it on and off at will. So it's not even that you have to look them in the eye. You might just be in their simple presence, and they could talk to a whole crowd of people if they want to. But once their eyes turn green, once they're there, once you're in their presence, maybe you just automatically start turning to stone, unless you of course make your saving throws and all that kind of crap, mechanically. But I'm saying it could be their mere presence turns people to stone, and they can turn it on and off at will, which might be for the more powerful ones, and it might be instant as well. Fail to save, stone. That's it. There's no making a save later on to resist its effects, kind of thing. And of course, there's the ones that infect you turning to stone, but it takes a bit of time over days, hours, minutes, rounds, kind of thing, where you slowly start to turn a little bit at a time, until you completely turn to stone. And you could the slowly turning to stone thing could even be like, you lose 2 points of your dexterity, and when your dexterity turns to 0, you are completely stone or something. Or roll a d6, and that's how many rounds it's going to take before you completely turn to stone, until you find some way out of it, or get back to your allies, or get to a safe place so you don't you're not balancing over a pillar over a chasm, and get to the other side so you don't fall into the raging river or the lava or something like that and are never found again. No, so okay, so also, if there are a legion of Medusae in your world, yesterday we talked about world building, where they are the primary power of the world. However they've done it, maybe they all struck at once and turned the demon lords and the undead lord and the dragons and all those other beings to stone or whatever. So maybe they've taken over the other places. Thank you, Dead Man. Dead Man popped into Twitch. That feel free to join the Discord. Just scroll down in the boiler room. Thank you. You are always you're you're always helpful there, Dead Man. Despite us having our complications, dude. I love it. I love it so much. Oh, by the way, again, below the video, yeah, give a thumbs up. Spread the word. Share this video if you're someone into long form, unscripted content that you guys control, and hit the bell, get notified, those kind of things. So yeah, but whatever. Hell, join the Discord over at Fantasy Grounds College and pop down into the boiler room if you want to. Okay. Lastly, since we're talking about the environment, it's possible that the world has been changed. Oh yeah, yeah. Deadman says below the video on YouTube and it's above the video on Twitch. Yeah. Oh, and above, it's actually at the top of the Discord as well. The links are above the Discord there as well. So yep, the the world may have shifted itself based on the mere presence of the Medusa. So, of course, this isn't a mechanical like gaming ability, but we may or may not know that the Medusa's gaze, just their presence, starts turning living things to stone. What I mean is um, plant life, harvests start to stop because their mere presence starts to ruin the topsoil and the living plants and things. Maybe their presence, small animals, insects. We really don't know, or they don't. We consider sentient bipedal creatures as the ones that are victims of the Medusa. Look in the eye of the Medusa, turn to stone. How about a bee or a bat? Or if someone is blind, do they turn to stone? So maybe over time, they are having a radioactive type of effect on the world. Oh, you're so. Can a stone the flesh feed a party exploring the Underdark? That's. Oh, there's a stalagmite. Steak tonight. Hey, I'm going to turn that stalagmite into meat, and then you just use your burning hands. But listen, 28 seconds just to get that nice char on the outside, and hack, hack, hack. Mmm, this is tasty. Turning those what is it? Ropers on the bottom and piercers from above. Um, yep, turning them into nice fleshy meat. Oh, you could turn a gargoyle, which is stone, or an earth elemental into flesh. Hmm. They might even be happy about that. The earth elemental might be pissed off because he's stuck on a prime material plane, but the gargoyle might be having a little bit of fun with it. Like, ooh, take a look at my genitalia. This is sweet. Male or female, right? Maybe a little bit of both. Yeah, we've got to we're into the end mark here, but yeah, that's a possibility. Like we talked about before, we talked about yesterday in world building, the knowledge of stone back to flesh itself might be extremely valuable. The Medusa sending her agents after the people who know it to either kidnap them, bring them into her entourage, or kill them, or destroy that information. Uh, the rebellious factions that are against the Medusas that have taken over the world would be holding these secrets close to their chests to save their allies, so that one day they might be able to use this to spread it across an entire region to bring their people back, instead of looking out into the valley and seeing tens of thousands of warriors turned to stone by the Medusa that took out the armies of the Five Nations or something. So yeah, that definitely worth money and worth resources. It's a value, not necessarily money, but for trade or whatever. And in this world, in the world that the Medusas have taken over, like I'm not sure what they eat. Like, are they able to change their stoned victims back to flesh and eat them? Like, in your world, are the Medusae more biologically induced rather than divinely cursed? So this is just a form of arcane capture so that they can then devour their subjects later. I don't know why not. Spiders do that. A fly gets caught in the web. They encase the fly in a cocoon. They go back and suck out their innards later on, eat the innards, save it for later. Maybe the Medusa is that writ large in an arcane world, um, especially if your Medusae are more bestial, like they are non-gendered creatures, or they are not, they're not cursed by Aphrodite. I don't know if Aphrodite really cursed the Medusa. I don't remember the mythology offhand, but it seems to go hand in hand, right? If Aphrodite was like, was it Athena? Oh, because Aphrodite is the goddess of beauty. Athena is of I'm thinking of Hera. Damn it, doesn't matter. Okay, Athena cursed. Yes, it was Athena. So Athena curses this mortal. Um, Athena is a war goddess. I couldn't remember if she was war and wisdom, but curses the Medusa, and so you could play up the whole gender specified nature of the Medusa. The women of the world either needing to worry about them being cursed as well, the men of the world being afraid of those that are cursed, like that might be a thing. That curse might be a blood thing that has spread from the different women that if the men um, even once dare to raise a hand to the woman, her blood rises literally, uh, etc. That kind of thing. Yes, Athena is almost like a female Odin, honestly. War, wisdom, and has a spear. She's just not blind in one eye like Odin. Yeah, and no ravens and eight-limbed horse either, but just as deadly too, right? So yeah, you could play that up, and that means that the environment of the world itself might be one in which, and this is a strange thing to say, it might be one in which the player characters need to be very careful who they offend or don't offend. For example, maybe the women in the world feel like they have the most power, at least not the whole world, a region of your world. They might hold all the privilege in the world, and if you say one thing against them, they're able to strike against you because they have a very powerful patron that protects them. And so there may be, it's like walking on eggshells kind of thing. It could be the opposite though, where the the women are hiding because the Medusa is trying to embrace them into being with her, and the women are like, I don't want to be like you, with snakes in the hair and all that damn stuff. No, like, leave me alone. And the Medusa might be saying, yes, but we are of the same kind, and the ladies are like, no, we're not. You know. Um, Yep, Deadman says for Athena, war and wisdom, hence the owl, her familiar, being a symbol of wisdom. So I would it make sense that the Medusa is the opposite of that? Yeah, Malika says Athena, goddess of wisdom, Artemis, goddess of the hunt. So maybe the Medusa represents the opposite of that. So isn't wise. It is very controlled by her emotions. Um, isn't when it comes to war requires like tactics, loyalty, um, strategy. Maybe the Medusa isn't that way and is overcome with her rage, her vengeance, and such. And maybe the owl, maybe the Medusa can only turn bipedal creatures, but like an owl itself is immune to being turned to stone. I don't know, because I do remember the mechanical owl from I was going to say the original. It's not the original. It is a version of um, of Clash of the Titans. But yeah, that could be a thing. Ooh, Titans. Anyway, guys, that may become something. Tomorrow is Future Friday, and yes, we take our same weekly theme, the Medusa. We're going to change that over to that. Of course, we will be talking about that in Future Friday. And how the hell does that the Medusa in the far future? Interstellar travel, cyberpunk. What will that fit? I don't know. Honestly, we've already hinted upon it, right? The Medusa could be an alien creature. It could be a genetic offshoot. It could be an experiment going wrong. It could be a Cthulhu Cthulhuish creature from the nether regions or far off location. It could be something out of hyperspace or wormhole that has adhered itself to starships, so on and so forth. I don't want to I don't want to shoot our load off too early, but yes, tomorrow we'll be doing Future Friday, where we talk about everything from the Victorian industrial age on, all into the far intergalactic society, and how to incorporate the Medusa as an example of one of our threads into the greater world. So guys, thank you very much. Down below, yeah, please, thumb, spread, sub, bell, join what we're going to do. Sorry, up here, Fantasy Grounds College. Go ahead, join at Discord. Of course, this is what our theme is. We'll have our new theme tomorrow. And we go live Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, my time. Please join in. And if not, catch us later. So, guys, everyone, your time is extremely valuable. I'm glad you can spend it with me. I hope you're able to leave with a little